Hello again and welcome to another Mordian Glory podcasty after actiony report thingy. Only the highest professional standard of introduction here. And I am joined today on the, well, I would say Saltcast, but Simon's not here today. I am instead on the Ratcast.
Ratcast!
Ratcast, baby! Pocket rat. I am on the Ratcast, and joining me is my ever scaveny ratty partner in crime. I'm not going to actually say your username because I don't want this video to get demonetized because we have to wait a minute. But it's that rat man who was born out of wedlock.
Yes.
Also known as
not even canon. It's not even canon. I wasn't even.
It's not even, we're getting the real Sam lore, or should we say Sam? So Sam, thank you for joining me on today's video. It's great to have you here. We are going to be talking about the bestest world, the oldest world, the old world, and we are going to be having a bit of a chat today. We're going to be having a little bit of a chat about the battle that we did, which at time of recording only yesterday. Although this video, the way the schedule's worked out, will be out a bit past that probably. We're going to be talking about the battle that we had yesterday, and we'll make sure there's a link to that down in the description below. So, dear viewers, you can get your hands on it. And we're also going to be talking about some thoughts and thunks about the general state of Old World right now. What we think is strong, what we think is weak. Is the honeymoon period over, mayhaps, and has the arms race begun?
Made sure to bring all my best uninformed opinions and my most nonsensy chat lines to talk about.
Uninformed opinions are my bread and butter. That's what I built my entire channel upon. Hot takes and bold statements. That's my standard, sir. That's my style, sir.
Grind out some interaction, some salty people. I upset them with my bold takes.
Exactly. So, of course, if you're watching this video and you've not seen the battle report, be aware that there will be spoilers. If you're not bothered about that's fine. We won't be going through blow by blow, so you'll be able to get all of the good nitty-grittiness from the battle report itself. And we'll make, like I said, link in the description. But if you do care about spoilers, then maybe go and watch that Barrett first, and then come here. But I think what I'm just going to start off with is straight away a question shot across the bow, as it were. Wolves of the Sea.
Ah, so much fun. So much fun.
Cool. Cool. So I think for me, what really stood out was the challenge at the beginning.
It's a brilliant mechanic, and I would be really happy if that was a mechanic just for the whole game. Every game, instead of rolling to determine the first turn, you had to nominate a champion and go and Achilles start of the battle fight.
Achilles.
Yeah. That's why no one will remember your name.
Yeah, exactly.
Black Orc, anyway.
Hey, I need to come up with a name for that Black Orc.
You do.
I think like classic Black Orc, a name like Ugruk or something. But we've got the Emperor Orc. We need like.
Are there any notable Orc players in your community who might appreciate having a brute like that named after them?
I've got the name.
Go on.
It's not Maximus. It's Maximorc. Maximorc. It's Maximorc. Maximorc.
What a brute. What an absolute giga chad that orc is.
Maximorc, Gorkimus. What's it? Maximus Derissimus. I can't remember the full name. Anyway.
Yeah.
It's Maximorc Gorkissimus, commander of the Greenskin Legions. But it was so cool, man. Like, so how it works, for those that don't know, instead of rolling off the beginning of the game, you have to select a 1-wound unit champion, and I have to select a 1-wound unit champion, and I have to fight it out, and whoever wins the challenge gets first turn.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Now, so in our game it was a bit friendly, but you said that's actually a way of like tailoring into that from the
Yeah,
Wolves of the
so
Seaside. So what's the normal build for it?
if I was going to try really hard, I would take a almost minimum 5-man Huskarl unit with a champion, with Mark of Corn, with flails, and I'd give him the magic item from the Chaos Book, the Helm of Many Eyes, which gives him always strikes first at the cost of stupidity. The
Okay.
stupidity is the reason why you don't really want it on your big block of Huskarls if you're going to
Yeah.
take one of those. You can take the little, I'd say budget, but they're still quite expensive. But
Yeah. Because
so he gets to always strike first.
does he take the stupidity test as part of the challenge or not? I guess.
No, no, no. It's only in your
Yeah.
starter phase, sub phases, isn't it? So
Ah.
you potentially hamper yourself during the full real game, but
Yeah.
he's so threatening, and obviously it's never 100% guaranteed. This is the old world. You don't have buckets of rerolls. You don't just keep rolling until what you want to happen happens. But you've got 3 strength 5, weapon skill 4, AP 2 attacks at always strikes first.
Not
And
bad.
that's at least enough to threaten just about anything.
Yeah.
In any, I've been to an event with my Wolves of the Sea, and I took him like that. And of the 3 games I played, nobody accepted the challenge. They all wanted to keep the guy alive. They just gave me first turn.
Ah.
And
So because
that's brilliant.
that you want first turn.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I
I rely on that mechanic because I take so many small drops. I can out deploy my opponent by seeing where they put everything. Just dropping little bits of chaff, little bits of chaff. Oh, that's where your army goes. Okay, here's mine.
Yeah.
And then I'll take first turn anyway. Thank you.
Yeah.
A
Very
really nice mechanic.
interesting. Yeah, so because when people first saw this, they thought it was a bit of a debuff, but it's not actually a debuff. It's actually just a straight buff.
Yeah. Especially, well, if you want to go first, right? So there's potential you want to go second, but you can't choose to go second if you win because you go first if you win,
Yeah,
which is fair.
But if you wanted to go
I'm
second,
not that good enough player.
If you wanted to go second, you just put some ship muncher in, wouldn't you?
Yeah, or just not challenge because it's an optional mechanic. But I'm more in love with the mechanic than I am with going second. If there's ever a situation where I want to go second.
So, just in case people aren't familiar, Wolves of the Sea, probably should have mentioned earlier, but I don't think it's not a huge deal. They are one of the armies from the Arcane Journal for Warriors of Chaos, and it's essentially meant to be like the Marauder army, isn't it?
Yeah.
However, I'm just going to say it. I don't think it's the Marauder army. I don't have any issue with dealing with Marauders, man. Marauders, I could handle Marauders left, right, and center. It's quite clearly the Skinwolf army.
Alright, so it's the Marauder army in that you have a lot less access to proper fully armoured Warriors of Chaos dudes. There's not much of the heavy armour Warriors of Chaos guys running around. I have one guy modelled with it for my Chaos Lord, and the rest of the army is various degrees of less armour, all the way down to naked PCP Viking flail dudes, which I quite enjoy.
What's all the skin doing on my arm?
Yeah. I've got in the region of 30 Marauder horsemen because I like the army from like a light cavalry aspect. I've got the Huskarls. I'm in the middle of finishing some Marauder infantry to use a nice little flavourful block. But the Skinwolves are great. They're unique to the Wolves of the Sea, and they have a really fun mechanic and just a load of rules stacked on top, which obviously makes them powerful. If a little bit hard to keep track of what you're doing.
Are they meant to be, fluff-wise, they're sort of like werewolves, aren't they?
Yeah, they're completely werewolves. The proper GW models for them, which I'm not a massive fan on, which is why I've made my own guys for it. But those ones are werewolf guys with like little bits of skin still hanging on.
Yeah. So they're like big monstrous infantry. They move pretty fast. And I think they're reasonably durable. They don't look that durable. They've got the mutation that lets them become more durable. And basically, you pick between what skin they're going to wear, I suppose.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you don't pick at the beginning of the game, do you? You pick each turn what it's going to be.
Each time a combat that they are in is selected to be fought, you pick an upgrade. At the start of the controlling player's turn, the upgrades fall off. So, in my turn, if I charge you, I select the fight. I pick one of the 3 buffs. It's either +1 armor penetration and 2 armor bane, 1 extra attack, or +1 toughness and a 5 up armor save.
Mm.
And then we fight the fights, and then it's your turn. And because I've probably not killed you in one turn, in your turn we fight the fights again. When the combat is selected, I pick another one of those upgrades, and you can stack them.
So if you don't get into if you don't get into combat, you don't get to pick your buff.
Correct. So you can never have the buffs in. Like, you couldn't pick the defensive buff to keep you safe from shooting, for example.
Oh wait, so it goes. So if you let's say I'm playing Empire, I've got a unit of fast cav up front, pistoliers. You eat them, and you can't go. Well, I'm going to eat these guys easily, so I don't need any offensive buffs. So I'm going to pick the tough hide one. Then when I try and shoot next turn, you wouldn't have the tough hide?
Oh, no, I think I still do, because I think the buff only falls off at the start of my next turn.
Yeah,
every time I get to my start of turn sub phase, the buffs fall off. They've got 1 or 2, depending whether they fought once or twice, the buffs fall off them.
So you've got to eat someone to get the buff, essentially.
Yeah, the really filthy thing is, if you manage to get an easy kill, like in this instance into some pistoliers, you're saying, and then you overrun into another ongoing combat, so you have some halberdiers behind there that I flanked with some marauder horsemen.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm in this second combat, and I select that combat again, and I apply another buff.
So you have double buff.
Yeah. So if somehow your opponent lets you do that again in their turn, the maximum you can stack up to is 4 buffs. It's like your opponent 100% deserves it if that happens, because they gave you it.
Filthy, 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 dirty, dirty, dirty.
But typically, you're going to be fighting with 1 or 2, depending whether it's your turn or your opponent's turn.
Yeah. Now, I think the two things that stood out to me about the Skin Wolves is, were they Strength 4 base or Strength 5 base?
Strength 4 base.
The spell got them to Strength 5.
Yes, that was Demonic Vessel.
But the Weapon Skill 5 is base, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, Weapon Skill 5 base.
Huge, man.
Yeah. I didn't realise how huge it was until this game we played. I was, oh, yeah, I'm hitting you on 3s. Ooh.
You're hitting Black Orcs on
3-rolling 1s, because I've got the Beastman rule.
Primal Fury.
Primal Fury, that's it. And Blood Frenzy is the other one, if you roll a double, which didn't happen. But if it does, a nice free frenzy after you've arrived at combat, so you can't even be frenzy baited. That's just... we'll take that.
So, I think straight up, I think Skin Wolves are a phenomenal unit. And the entire game, you avoid... It's interesting, if we were to go back and play that game again and you saw my big unit of Black Orcs in the middle of the board, I don't think this time you'd be so cagey. I think you just go straight down the middle and just eat them.
I think I overestimated Black Orcs and underestimated Skin Wolves.
Yeah.
I've previously only used Skin Wolves in smaller units.
Yeah.
And they don't... In a 3-man unit, they don't have the punching power to take the full front rank off a unit and reduce the damage that comes back in. And then depending on what buff you've picked up in your turn, you're not necessarily very durable. Only toughness 4. It's an ogre stat line, but fast and with lots of special rules.
Yeah,
It's a very fast special ogre.
It's interesting because there's Black Orcs are my best combat infantry, and I think interestingly I don't think there's anything that I have in my current Orc and Goblin collection that could take those on in a fair fight. Now, we're getting a little bit abstract here, but I do think it does create an interesting sort of thing to talk about, which is, it feels like if out of all of my armies that I can think of, if I was to try and yeet a few Bretonnian Lancers into you, I feel like you make me strikes last and you eat me. I feel like
that's only with the full Death Star build that I went for.
We're talking about the goddamn the skinny Death Star. That's what we're
it wasn't the full Death Star build, was it? I'm not going to, especially in a very much friendly game like this, use the debatable rules nonsense of onto characters. None of that I don't necessarily believe in.
But you could do. What we're saying is the Skinwolf Death Star exists. Now, the point I'm saying here is that I can't think of anything that wants to take that on in a fair fight. I mean, there'll be something, but top of my head, I can't think of anything reasonable that wants to take that on a fair fight. But then that doesn't mean that they're unbeatable. What that says to me is that the only way you beat them is in an unfair fight. So you shoot the piss out of them, or you use something like Fanatics against them, or you like magic the piss out of them, or there's a whole myriad of basically. I'm going to basically,
would melt them reasonably well because we've got good weapon skill, so you can't rely on getting lots of hits consistently. But hits at strength 5, especially if I've not picked the durability buff, it's a 5-up regen or take a wound. Anything with killing blow. It's monstrous infantry. 3 wounds per model is what keeps them alive so long. If you ignore that and just take 3 wounds off with each wound that goes through, they die quite quickly. It's only 6 models.
Yeah, I did find like when my goblin just glared at one and he just died, it was quite funny.
Yeah, that's good.
It's like, but what I'm getting at here is it's kind of interesting how in this situation, I don't know, either skin walls go around massacring stuff because you try and fight them in a fair fight, or you kill them in some way before they really get to you, and then it's like, is there a little bit of a double-edged sword there in terms of like gameplay? Because I know we love to wank off Old World and make it seem like it's the best game in the world, but it does have some flaws. And I would say, does that feel like if we were, let's put it this way, if we were to play that game again now, I would just put even just one Hellblaster volley gun would be bad times for you, hombre. Bad times.
Yeah, that's true. There's no added layers of protection from range shooting in there. They just they take it. There's decent protection the way I ran it from magic missiles, which it's not an amazing level of protection. I didn't run level 4, so I was only dispelling it to level 2. But with the puppet and -2 for magic resistance, it's about the same, I'd say, as a level 4.
Which pseudo level 4.
Yes, running sort of pseudo defensive level 4-ish levels of magic defense. But magic missiles will still eat them if you get them off. I mean, your glare, which isn't like it's a character sniping tool, isn't it? Really, that glare.
It just says pick a. I don't know if it says pick a model or pick a unit. I think it says I should have checked. If it says pick a model, I should have like glared someone out of you.
If you caught a lone infantry character who's skulking around, like an enemy wizard who's skulking around for a 360-degree line of sight for his own magic missiles, and you catch him where you can target him, that's a dead wizard.
Yeah. Got Brain Burster as well, but I don't think that's quite as good, Brain Burster. But yeah, I thought the skin walls are really good, but I do think it just puts a little bit of a question mark on, like, is there potentially a bit of a risk of they can be a little bit badsies. Not necessarily, not in a friendly game, but let's say we're talking about a competitive tournament, and it's like, we match into each other. I've got Empire, you've got your Wolves of the Sea, and my whole thing is I'm going to basically shoot those skin wolves to death.
Yeah.
Then your cool unit doesn't get to do its cool thing. And if I don't do that, then it just munches my entire army.
Yeah. It's I mean, gun lines skew in the direction of a game that's solved before or by the reaching of combat. How fast does combat get reached and how much stuff makes it there determines who wins. Anyway, but also having Warriors of Chaos on the other side, which is entirely the opposite skew. I've got maybe a javelin in the whole army for us to share, to throw at you. But in that instance, I'm not so much scared of your organ guns because I can chaff them out as long as they're not on a hill, obviously. There's not always the opportunity for things to be on a hill.
No.
But cannons can punk through. Dogs into skin wolves.
It's always going to be on a hill.
Depends what terrain set you use, but the square base ones, you've got a hill.
Always going to be on.
Pretty sure you just always have a hill on the square base.
Always going to be on a hill. I will bring a hill and I will sneak it onto the table. Whatever happens, it's always going to be on a hill.
Just model your cannons with a hill, right? There's the rules for basing artillery give you free reign to use larger scenic basing. My cannon,
the law is that my cannon is placed in a large barrage balloon that just just tethered. It's just tethered down, like bye. Cathay, baby.
The longest flying stand.
But what are they going to do about Cathay? Because they do have these balloons. I bet they can shoot over the top of things.
I don't think they pack a lot of firepower from the look of the model, though, right? They look like they have little bomb things to drop, and maybe a guy with a musket. But there's no great artillery balloon or anything like that.
Missed opportunity.
Their cannons still look gnarly, though. I'm sure I've heard something about the ogre loader that they come with, giving them the chance to fire twice in one turn once a game.
I heard on the grapevine from my Inquisition contacts at Cathay, you've got all the really cool stuff, which like the big statues and stuff, which are cool.
Oh, they're cool.
Competitively, you are going to see grand armory of Cathay on display, and it's just going to be bang, 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 bang.
Those cannons sound like they're going to be really brutal, and so do the something lancers, whatever they're called. I don't know much about Cathay. I never played
Jade lancers or something. Yeah.
The cavalry with the cavalry spear / lance special weapon that counts as having charged as long as you beat your opponents, essentially. So you charge, you win. You've got lances.
Yeah.
Like if they've lost at all, well, guess what? Lances again, boys. Keep going, keep going.
Keep stabbing. Yeah.
That sounds brutal as well.
Yeah, 100%. Cathay looks fun, but I think they're
going to be coming out with a relatively limited range, so they have to have options to deal with things. You can't skew into different, such as they don't have the range that Empire has, that Orcs and Goblins have. So this stuff has to be good, otherwise they'd be terrible.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's interesting. We've talked a lot about Wolves of the Sea, and we've talked a lot about Skin Wolves. We've touched a little bit upon like gun lines and stuff, and obviously because it's a very different game. Like we've traditionally played Skaven versus Empire. That definitely feels like Skaven isn't great fundamentally. Obviously, there's the Renegade rules, which we might touch upon later, but Skaven make Empire feel good. But one thing I've noticed is that a lot of people underestimate Empire in general, because there's all these people that go around saying you should be taking Empire cavalry armies. No, don't do that. If you want to do that, fuck off to Bretonnia. Okay, like I've always found the most successful Empire armies I've ever had have been the ones that bring a lot of guns. Not just guns, but that they bring a lot of guns. Yeah.
I don't know how much your experience will agree with this, but I found that it's so common knowledge that infantry are suck in the game status it currently is. Like everybody is aware. Like welcome to the old world. Here is your pamphlet that explains why infantry suck. But then people who haven't experienced playing against an infantry heavy opponent, don't realise that they're not as bad as it all seems, and they can win combats. And it only takes if you have enough infantry that you lose a battle, a fight, and you don't care, and you lose a fight and you don't care, the dice can come out that you win the third round of combat, and
that's it.
Then you're running people down, and they don't expect it.
My mate Alex describes it as because he plays a lot into my Empire infantry as well, and he's like the difference between fighting of infantry. The difference between the infantry and the thing they're fighting is the thing that they're fighting has to win every round of combat. The infantry only has to win one round of combat to often turn the franchise around. And the number of times when I have seen Empire players who have just been running like no infantry or cavalry, and they've just been getting absolutely filled in game after game after game because they just don't have, because they've got like a block of like 12 knights. That's only 12 wounds. And then on the other side, I don't take as much infantry as I used to. I actually take quite a balanced Empire army now. I'll take 2 blocks of cavalry, big block of halberdiers, and then some war machines and a steam tank. Essentially, my steam tank kind of represents my second block of infantry because that's basically what it does. But the last tournament that I went to, my big block of halberdiers got charged by questing knights and the paladin of the Bretonnians, and the Green Knight, and I had the ramparts up, and I lost every round of combat until we're talking probably 6 rounds of combat. I technically lost 6 rounds of combat, but after 6 rounds of combat, the Baron had fled, away, he'd chosen not to follow up and had gone somewhere else, about round 4. The Green Knight had been the Green Knight was basically got combat res to death in the final sort of round, and and all the questing knights were dead. And at the end of the day, my halberdiers still had about 15 people in them out of a block of 40, which meant I didn't give up any points. I've got rid of the Green Knight, and I've got rid of a questing knight unit. It's like, that's just one block of about 225 points, tying up all of that for 3 rounds of combat, and I only won the last round of combat. The last, like, round or 2 of combat.
As long as you don't get touched by something with first charge or some other way of disrupting your ranks, and if you can get a little bit of durability onto a unit with that many wounds, the amount of staying power they've got with their static combat res, and they're not taking too much damage, you'll be all right. Surviving first charge is luck, isn't it? Because that's the thing that counters your static combat res quite significantly.
Yeah, but you don't care about static combat res, because all you do is you just go, okay, I'm leadership 9 rerollable. I'll just fall back in good order the first turn. After that, it's on.
Yeah, with your BSB, I guess.
Yeah, because I always take a BSB with my Empire because of.
Yeah. So I do the same thing with my Skavens. Things, elements like that, like needing a BSB and needing the wizard to put the earthen ramparts on. That starts adding to the cost of holding the line in that position. But yeah, you're still looking at a reasonable trade. It's
a reasonable trade, and it's interesting because it kind of. You can see it from 2 angles. You have to spend more points to hold that line. Also, there's more points in that very big block, and so it's denying points to your opponent at the same time.
Yeah.
This is why people always used to get really in the comment section of like any battle port I did. I always used to put like my steam tank on the flanky stank, and people
people hate it.
Always are people complaining quite passionately down in the comment section being like, why is that stank not in the center? I went one after, and I kept trying to explain to people like, look, there's a reason it doesn't go in the center, because they're not as durable as you think they are. Like, it goes center, it just dies. And people were like, and then one battle I just went, fine, it's in the center, and it died very easily in like 1 or 2 turns, and it didn't achieve anything. And I literally made a point in the battle pot where I was playing against orcs and goblins, and I made a point. I went, and that is why I don't put my steam tank in the center, because I've just lost 265 points and I've gained nothing for it. That is 260 points lost from my army, 265 victory points to my opponent. If I put every time I put it on the flank, people are like, that steam tank's like 265 points. All it did is kill like 150 points of like chaff on the flank. Yeah. I got 150 points. My opponent didn't get 265.
And it held your flank for you because it's a really good anchoring point, because you know it's not going anywhere. With what your opponent will likely put on the flank, with the light cavalry and the relatively lower damage output. Fast, yeah, sure, but relatively low damage output. It's not going to get taken off easily. So you can rely on it holding your flank. It stops people getting into the side of you, stops your line collapsing. It's a really solid concept.
I'm going to throw something at you. I want you to give me your thoughts.
Oh dear.
If I'd had Empire in that game, and I'd had my steam tank in that game, thinking through your army, is there anything that can handle the stank? I'm not even sure the Skin Wolves could do it.
I think the Chaos War from the Skin Wolves wouldn't do it in one go, not at all. But over 2 or 3 rounds of combat, perhaps. If he got the same rolls that he got on the old Gaze of the Gods to get him up to 7 strength 7 attacks at weapon skill 7 that he ended up on, he's got a solid chance.
But he's only wounding on 4s.
Yeah, but wounding a steam tank on 4s is pretty impressive.
It's good, but the Skin Wolves are there. The Skin Wolves wound him on 6s.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Your damage output in melee is relatively low on the steam tank, so I'd probably go into the armor penetration, so those 6s are AP 3 or AP 6 if it's your turn. So not many 6s, but the 6s really matter.
Yeah, it's just interesting because it kind of stank becomes like a problem, because it's like, how many points is in that one unit of yours? Like 1,000, something mad.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Then it's like, okay, if my 265 point, the little tank that could, is
Can
holding
hold
you
it
on
up
a
for that long.
flank. So turn 1 you don't get the charge. There's only 6 turns of the game. Turn 1 you don't get the charge. Let's say it takes you 2 turns to kill it, because let's say it takes 3 rounds of combat. So your turn 1, your turn 2, my turn 2, your turn 3, it's dead. I think that's pretty reasonable. Even if it's like, okay, well now we're going into turn 4. There's only, and there's only so much left to do.
And your turn at this point as well. So in that scenario, I've killed it on the end of my turn, going into your turn. Shoot me.
Yeah, and I always like to do is I have my guns on one side, and then I put my steam tank on the other side, because that creates a really big dilemma for my opponent, because they're like, okay, well I don't want to get held up by the steam tank. I'll go against the guns. Oh shit, I'm going to get shot to death. Oh, I'll go against the steam tank. Oh shit, it's going to hold me up for longer than I want it to.
Yeah, probably the best option is to just full send on the gun side. Try and not get stuck on the steam tank, because even if you win the fight, it's kind of a losing battle anyway. Getting stuck on a steam tank for that long.
Yeah.
You just hope to not take too much damage on the way in from the guns, and if you get there in relatively good condition, you're in for a good day.
Did you know they FAQ'd it recently? So the steam tank. I know this has become steam tank glazing session.
But we like the steam tank.
They changed it so the cannon now fire grape shot.
That's cool. Yeah, why wouldn't it be able to? It's a cannon still, right?
It specifically didn't used to be able to.
Yeah.
And then they FAQ'd it. And it makes
From a lore
it
perspective,
so much better. It's like, it's so much better. Oh man. So we've talked a little bit. I've managed to shoehorn Empire into this Orc and Goblin versus Seawolf after Action Report.
Appalling.
I'm always gonna. One thing I want to touch upon now, which I think is
Skaven.
We can talk about Skaven. It wasn't what I was going to talk about.
No, go for it. You shoehorned Empire in. I'm trying to shoehorn Skaven in.
Shoehorn Skaven, go on. The floor is yours.
Better Empire.
You know what? I don't. My thing can wait. Why don't you talk about some of your favourite bits from the Skaven remastered, for lack of a better term? Explain a little bit about it.
Okay, so the Renegade Pack was released by, developed by Val Heffelfinger in conjunction with some sort of industry experts from different factions, with the aim of making the abandonware legacy factions more playable, because most of them were in a pretty bad state. Skaven being one of the ones in a
apart from Vampire Counts.
Vampire Counts in a bad state from a flavour perspective. They had a couple of really strong builds, but if you want to be top level competitive, which is what a lot of content obviously looks at, then you were sort of shoehorned into those builds, and there's a lot of fun things that you can't really justify if you're trying to win games.
Yeah.
But undeniably they were in a better state than others. So they released this pack, and it's been pretty popular, and it's been a pretty nice light touch, no massive changes. Some issues potentially, but I'm not qualified to speak on that. I'm not. My competitive mind is not operating on that level at all. I'm trying my best to be a better player.
There's always things that they'll miss, and then they'll tweak it. Yeah,
absolutely. And quite a bit of it was aimed at flavour and making the armies feel better and less hamstrung by things, without necessarily just boosting the numbers and making things better. Skaven didn't get any huge sweeping, obvious stand out, oh my god, that's going to be broken changes, which at first quick read through was a bit like, oh, okay, but then you pay a little bit more attention, you have a little bit of a play with it, and some of the little changes that they made make such a big difference to how the army feels. Nice. The biggest one, the absolute capstone for me, wasn't even in the Skaven part of the document. It's a tweak to the dragged into battle or pushed along, or whatever they called it, rule from the core rule book that only affects legacy armies. There's no pulled into battle, dragged along, whatever it's called, in the core factions. Right. But now, instead of having to be sort of awkwardly next to your block of rats, you can put your bell or your furnace or your there's the dark elf thing, the whatever that's called anyway, in the center
Cauldron
of the
of blood,
unit.
I think it is.
Yeah, Cauldron of Blood. You can put them in the center of the unit as the Great Horn Rat intended, and
Yes.
share your buffs. And it's a large target, so it can still be shot, but you get a 5-up. Does the wound hit the unit pushing it into battle instead?
Nice.
Save. And the bell's still not brilliant. The furnace is still probably the better of the two, but it's so much better than it was, and it plays so much better than it was.
It feels right.
And
It feels
yeah,
right.
I'm going to a 2,400 point tournament soon, and I'm not anticipating winning. I'm not even anticipating coming in the top half. I'm taking 2,400 points of Renegade Skaven with
Nice.
120 clan rats, the Horde, as it should be.
As it should be.
Like cannons, because they've been buffed to deal D3+1 damage like cannons.
They should do. They should do.
Like other cannons do. Like dwarf cannons should do as well. Four dwarves. They're still random as all hell. Random range, random strength with a good chance of misfiring. One of the misfire results lets you fire in a random direction, potentially straight down your own line.
Yeah.
They're chaos incarnate. They're brilliant, but they're just back to how they should feel. And yeah, I'm not going to win the game. It's fine. I'm going to get ate by dragons and all sorts. It's going to be all right. But I'm going to enjoy it so much.
The really, right. Let's just. I just want to capture that moment in it, right? Because seeing your enthusiasm right there, I think that's the most. We've known each other for over a year now. We're good mates, and that's the first time in over 12 months I have seen you uncontrollably excited for Skaven. Up until this point, it's always been like, well, I collect Skaven,
Yeah.
Like, I love the
didn't
army.
See me when the game came out.
I love the army, and all this kind of stuff. But like, obviously there was the initial hype when it just came out. The game came out, of course. But we're talking like
I did a little dance when the game came out. I was so happy.
Of course. But in the last 12 months of playing Old World and playing with your Skaven, without the honeymoon glasses on, shall we say?
Yeah.
It's been like, this is something. It's like I'm playing Skaven because I want to. It's kind of like, even I'm like struggling to enjoy it in a funny sort of way.
Yeah.
I'm not really explaining my point, but you just weren't getting it,
You're 100% right. So I started off more enthusiastic than I was up until Renegade came out.
Yeah.
Every battle was just a little scraping off my enthusiasm.
Yeah.
To put this into perspective, since the game came out, I've painted painstakingly in the old no speed paints, 3 layers of washes fashion.
Madness.
6,500 points of Skaven.
Nice.
160 clan rats in there for that. And I identify as a Skaven player. When the game didn't exist, when I saw people talked about Warhammer with people, so I don't play it anymore because Warhammer Fantasy's gone, and I'm not a big fan of Age of Sigmar. Yeah. But I'm a Skaven player.
Yeah. Yeah, you're the rat bastard.
I am the rat bastard. And and every game, initially when I started playing, and I wasn't particularly caring about being, I put all my fun things that I loved in the game, and they didn't play as fun as they used to. Yeah. A lot of the flavor, a lot of the cool interactions and mechanisms. We don't have slaves, we can't shoot into combat, lots of problems. But at least I was playing my rats. But at least I'm playing with my rats effect wears off over time, right? The game still has to support an enjoyable game for you. And I started leaning into trying to play more competitively, and I got to. Proud to say I've dragged myself to an event 50-50-ish, slightly positive win-loss ratio. But
very
to
impressive.
Get that cost,
Skaven, very impressive.
Everything. It cost everything. The army I have to play to do that well is just nothing like what a Skaven army should be. The Horde effect isn't there. It's all janky and using really weird rules interactions to... It's not a fun experience to do.
You achieved a win rate at the cost of actually playing Skaven, which I know sounds kind of weird because you were playing with Skaven models, but you weren't. You were playing with Skaven models, but you weren't playing a Skaven army.
Yeah, it wasn't Skaven tactics.
It wasn't right, and so the number one. So I think this is so. I think it's such an important factor, and it's something that I think we won't talk about it too much because I don't want it to be like bashing on 40k, because I still really enjoy 40k. But one of the things that I've definitely struggled with the new guard codex is that there's a lot of stuff in there that just doesn't feel like it should. Like, I can win games with my guard, and there are a few ways that feel right that I can win games with my guard, but for every like this feels like guard list that can do well, there's a list that it's technically using guard models, but we're basically wannabe space marines just off the top of my head, but it's very elite. It's just not quite right. And so I think there's a real issue at the moment where, and I think this is across, I think you're seeing it a little bit with Old World, but the Renegade stuff is fixing it. I think you're seeing a lot in 40k is there's balance is being achieved at a cost of maybe a vibe check. They're achieving balance but failing vibes, and I think vibes are so important, because people will winning games is fun, but it's interesting. People will get more animated and more enthusiastic and more excited talking about like the feel of their army than the power of their army. They'll boast about the power of their army, but they'll be excited about the feel of their army, and I think that's a really big thing.
Yeah, the event that I'm going to be going to soon, I'm taking 2,400 points of Skaven, and I could use the extra points and the slight buffs to the army to try and do what I was doing before and try and play competitively with a new added edge of some of these things are better. And some of the core tax clan rats got taken out, for example, but I'm taking more clan rats than I ever have before, because I'm so much more excited about being able to play an army that feels like a Skaven army and isn't so bad that I'm essentially not playing it. I'm not just going to be picking my models up. I'm going to get to do some cool stuff.
Yeah.
Even if I probably lose at the end, I'm fine with that. I was only sad about the Flavorful Army when it didn't work. It didn't do what it wanted to do, and it didn't win.
Yeah.
So what was the point?
Yeah.
And now I can do what I want to and not win, and there's still a point to it.
It's like, you can fly, or you can fall with style.
That's it. Yeah.
And I think that's what, I think that's why. I've got a couple of armies that I've been doing a lot with. I've been doing a lot with. It's interesting. Out of the 3 armies that I have that are fully painted right now, I've got Beastmen, Orcs, and Goblins, and Empire. Beastmen are my most powerful army out of all of those. Yeah. And interestingly, they're my least played. Mm. The reason why they're my least played is not because I don't like Chaos. I love Chaos. I love Chaos. It's so fun being able to, for the Dark Gods and get into the vibes of all that kind of stuff. But the most powerful thing in a Beastman army, one of the most powerful things in a Beastman army is big squad of Bestigor Slugskin. And it's like, but Beastmen are meant to be like raiders.
Yeah, ambushy, skirmishy. That's my vibe for Beastmen.
Yeah, it should be like, if they ever get into a straight up fight that lasts more than one round of combat, they shit themselves, kind of thing. They should almost be like, I'd say like frenzied Skaven in a funny sort of way. Like, they're like, we're gonna go in, they like bash things up, but the moment they meet stiff resistance, they're like, woo, and they like run away. Do you know what I mean? They're beastmen at the end of the day. They're not like chaos warriors. They like, they're not trying to get into straight fights. Beastmen don't march up to the outside of an empire town and go, come out and fight us. Beastmen wait until the night, sneak in and start like butchering everyone. Then they nickel the beer and run off. They're, on the one hand, they're these terrifying mutants. On the other hand, they're a bunch of opportunistic curs. That's what Beastmen are meant to kind of feel like. And right now, Beastmen don't feel like that. Beastmen just, especially like Bestigors, like, they just feel like, I'm going to march up to you and punch you in the fucking face.
Beastman really nicely in the lore perspective encapsulates what I love about the old world as a setting.
Yeah.
Like especially in comparison to a more high magic setting like Age of Sigmar, where Beastman is just a goat guy, right? It's not that scary until you put yourself in the shoes of the farmer in the isolated village in the Drakwold somewhere who just heard a horn be blown and like, oh crap!
Like, Mary,
grab your pitchfork,
Mary,
lad,
get
because the state
inside!
troops aren't here.
Get inside! Bar the door! Get inside! Get the kids into the cellar! Like, yeah, it's actually like, yeah, it's terrifying.
Yeah,
but like,
proper horrifying.
And this is why, like, I really enjoy playing my Empire, because people say Empire feel kind of weak. No, Empire basically feel how Empire should feel, which is a state troop trying to take on a Chaos Warrior in combat. That's never going to go well. It's never going to go well. Like 9 times out of 10, he should lose that fight. But you know what? Do you know what? State Troop's not sat there trying to get into a straight up fight. What happens is the Chaos Warriors march up to them, half of them disappear in a cloud of smoke, and then we outnumber them 3-1, and it's like, okay, maybe now we've got a chance. Like the individual State Trooper is kind of meant to feel a bit. I think they should be more. They shouldn't be any better at fighting. I think maybe they could tweak them to make them a bit brave, a bit more disciplined. Leadership 7's a bit rubbish, but like, I think Empire feel good because there's 3 things that make the Empire great. It's faith. I think the priests need to be a little bit better, but we've had great fun with Father Grigori.
That's fun.
Yeah, the priests are fun, but they could do with being a bit better. But they're there. So you've got the faith is there, the steel, but the most important thing is the gunpowder.
Yeah.
So Empire feel like Empire.
You do have to recognise the moustache and testicular fortitude-powered fighting prowess of an Empire State Trooper. Who, if we can assume that, if you assume that you can read across from settings, right, between because of demons, right?
Yeah.
So, what does it take, lore-wise, to kill a greater demon in 40k? Quite a lot of some really serious
Guns.
Borderline magic sci-fi power.
Yeah, a lot of firepower.
Greater demons in the lore of Warhammer Fantasy. Just a few lads with halberds. Let's get him.
To be honest,
if we don't do it, who's gonna? Come on, lads.
It's actually cannons.
Oh yeah, there's a
demon over there. Cool bang, 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 bang. Oh, it's gone now. Fuck off.
It's a really cool old piece of art that's cemented in my psyche.
Yeah.
It's like a top-down shot onto a tower with just some Empire chaps in the top of the tower defending their fort, and the Greater Demon of Slanesh climbing up with its claws like this, just like, oh well. Get down! Get down!
Like fingers, it's like they're like stabbing its fingers. Like, God, get down! Yeah. And then Orcs and Goblins, of course, feel like Orcs and Goblins. Now, so basically, I just think Old World definitely. I think vibes are so important for an army, no matter what game system you're playing. And I think there are some armies which I think are more popular than other in Old World because they pass the vibe check. And I think with the Renegade pack and the Skaven, they've not made them OP, but they've got the vibes feeling right, which is good.
It's silly. I know there's all sorts of debate about internal politics, or whatever, but I think it's quite silly of Games Workshop, just purely from a business point of view.
Yeah.
With how popular Skaven are in, I don't play it, but I've heard that the Skaven are incredibly popular in the Total War games.
Yeah.
They're one of the most played factions, most popular factions.
Yeah.
And they're very popular in Age of Sigmar, and they just had the 4th edition reboot. They were in the launch set, right, against the gold guys. To then not have them included as a core faction, how much money was left on the table there?
Yeah.
How much money was like, no, we just don't want this money. Get this out of here.
Yeah.
I'm saying this from a real serious love of the faction and the lore and everything about them, but take all that away and just look at it as a business case. That doesn't make sense to me.
No, I think what they're going to do is they're probably going to end up I think all of the legacy factions are probably basically there for Sigmar now in some capacity. Like, but you got Death Rattle for vampire counts and all that kind of stuff, and then you've got some things like. The Beastmen got kicked out of Age of Sigmar and came back over to Old World, which is kind of cool. So they're definitely
lucky guys.
Yeah, they're definitely dividing up the situation. I think Sylvaneth and stuff like that. There's basically no Wood Elves left now, so they'll come over to Old World proper. But I think what they'll do with the current legacy factions that they know are popular. Like, you can't not have that. Vampire counts were always more popular than Tomb Kings.
Yeah.
Always. I think they'll bring them back, but with like a twist. So it'll be VC, but it'll be Vampire Coast.
Yeah, that's how I was going there too.
Now, the
Talk
big
about
thing
Vampire
is,
Coast as a possibility.
the big thing is, what do they do with Skaven? Because there's not like Skaven at the end of the day.
If
It's not
they
like a
lead into one of
sub-faction.
the clans, like, so we've got Cathay coming.
Hmm.
Perhaps they lead into Eshin from the Cathay side of the old world. The trained ninja class, but then that's a really niche, really weird gameplay mechanic and look like specific elements of the lore as well, and it's not serving the rest of the army, because the bones of any Skaven army should be blocks of clan rats. That's just If you look at the pictures of Skaven fighting in all the army books and everything, it's rats climbing over rats. They're tidal waves coming to eat you, angry little savages. So you can't do that with Eshin, with only Eshin specific models, unless they also get clan rats in there. But your elite stuff is all assassins. I don't know what they do. It's
they could
more
do.
difficult.
It's interesting because with like Night Goblins, for example, they have Gloomspite Gits, and then they brought back the old, like, I call them the Giga Goblins, because they're so massive. Like, I think I've got a couple. I think I've got some here, which will hopefully, which will bring it across. But we've got your Gloomspite Gits here, and he's like, he's only little. He's just a little baby. Okay. And this is without the shield. We've got the Giga Goblin. Look at the size difference, man. Look at the size difference. He's like, his head is almost the same size as the. Look at the fist. Look at how big the fist is, man.
Oh, those the old ham fists. The big slappers.
If they ever imagine that thing clocking you across the jaw, you wouldn't get back up. To lean into a current meme. I don't know if 100 men could take on one gorilla, but 100 Night Goblins with fists like that could definitely take on one gorilla. So I think what they'll do is they'll bring Skaven back, and then you'll get all of your really, and I'm talking not Isle of Blood, I'm talking older. We're talking monkey-fisted, goddamn, like Skaven clan rats. And do you know what's funny?
Yeah.
Do you know what's funny? If they brought those models back, I'd buy them, because that's pure nostalgia bait right there.
Yeah. Pure nostalgia bait. It's within arm's reach.
It's within arm's reach. I'm ready. Yes! That's an OG Screaming Bell. Oh my god! With the artwork.
1993.
Did you buy it from eBay then in the end?
Yeah, I bought that.
Jesus Christ!
I couldn't let that pass up. There's only one more. I've got the modern bell. I've got that. I need the one in the middle. I think it was literally a year after that one, I believe. The one with the forward hanging bell. There, have all three bells. Never get to use them. Probably never transport that one out of the house because it's a fragile metal, and I don't want to chip it when I put. So I'm going to put some work into that. That gets a bit of effort.
That's your showpiece.
Yeah, it is.
That's the showpiece. That's the collector's item. Every so often you need to buy something just as a collection, like.
While we're showing all the collector's items, he's a bit of a rarity as well. I don't know if this is.
Oh wow! Actual like horned rat.
He's a big boy, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's the exalted vermin lord.
Wow.
There's a chaos warrior next to him.
He's a chunky boy.
He's a big boy, yeah.
Nice.
He's gonna get some efforts as well.
Nice. Well, I have one last thing that I want to talk about. One last topic.
Oh.
And I think it's an important one, because we've been talking about playing games, we've been talking about Vive, we've been talking about Renegades, but we've been playing this game now for 15 months at time of recording. No, 17 months at time of recording, I think.
I didn't get to start straight away. I had to work on all the painting.
It came out in January 2024. So yeah, it's like 17 months, but nearly 17, 18 months. Year and a half, we'll say, roughly. Almost been out for a year and a half. And at first, it was very much just, everyone was just happy the game was back. And like you said, everyone was just building and painting models. But I've noticed it, and I think you've noticed it a little bit as well,
And where you're going here.
You know where I'm going. It's a biggie. It's a biggie. But is the honeymoon period now over?
I
Is
can
the
only
arms
speak
race
in
begun?
certainty for myself.
Yeah.
For myself personally, the honeymoon period isn't over. It was a very long time that we were without the game. I didn't play a single game between the last day I was allowed to play in the Games Workshop that I used to play at as a kid.
Yeah.
Well, a young adult, I guess. After the end times and the first game I played of the old world. So it is a long, long time. And I've definitely revitalized my sort of honeymoony period, my just general excitement by picking up a second army, which plays a lot differently and gives me lots of other options, and that's cool.
True.
I think on a grander scale, in some respects, maybe the honeymoon period is coming to an end. I know things are at the sharp and pointy end of competitive, getting sharper and pointier, and closer to that sort of solved game state situation, which I don't love the idea of a solved game state. I love the experimental, try your weird stuff. If you've got an idea, go for it. Maybe it works.
Yeah.
That period of a game is great. But I mean, I don't play at that level. I'm not that good of a player. My tactical giga brain is
Well, do you think
not installed yet?
So I would agree. I actually think that the honeymoon period isn't over, but we're starting to see the arms race pick up. And what I've definitely noticed is there is beginning to form two very distinct communities within the old world, and they interact with each other, but there's two very different things that people are, and I'd say one of these communities is much larger than the other, and I think the larger community is the one that's still just like, I'm playing old world because it's old world. I always wanted this army as a kid. I couldn't get it as a kid. There's a lot of people in there, you know, late 20s and 30s and 40s who are like, oh my god, I can finally... I remember an episode of White Dwarf where I saw an entry crusade, I'm going to go and get it. There's that. I think that's a big part of it. But forming, and I think growing, slowly, but growing, is the people that have, as you said, like, have solved the game.
Yeah.
And, like, the people that will... You know, for example, there is now a Tomb King list for winning tournaments. It's Mortuary Cult, it's Ushabti with the bows, it's Poison, Skeletons, it's a Necrosphinx or two. It's not even like you can vary it a little bit. It's like, this is the 2,000 point solved game. Maybe wiggle room 100 points here and there.
I guess it depends at what sort of, how Shark Tank the event you're going to is. If you're at the absolute pointy end, then yeah, there probably is an optimal. But I mean, if they were coming to the sort of tournaments I like to play at, they probably have quite a bit of wiggle room and can still be very competitive because they've got so much good stuff in that book, which is great. Good on them. Tomb Kings are cool, and they basically didn't exist for 8th edition.
Yeah. But my point is, like, that list now exists, and if I wanted to, I could go and find that list and build it and play with it. And you've got similar things with, like, Bretonnians. I don't know if it's exactly a set Bretonnian list, although I suspect there probably is one out there. But there's certainly the Bretonnian Pegasus Lord on a Bretonnian Lord on a Pegasus.
Royal Pegasus, yeah.
We all know, and he's basically been sold for like 8 months at this point, if not longer.
Yeah. They might as well have released him with the and here's the magic items you put on him.
It's almost like you could 40k data. Don't do it, GW, for the love of God. But you could almost 40k data sheet that guy. You could, because nobody runs him without the build.
Yeah, it's the killing blow Pegasus Lord. Is
I don't even need to. It's got to the point now where I play someone who's got Bretonnians, and they go, and I've got a Pegasus guy. They start saying what the magical weapons are. I go, oh, don't worry, mate. It's the killing blow guy, and you go, yeah. And I know what. They don't even need to tell me. I know exactly what equipment he's got, down to like the hat that he wears. Do you know what I mean?
It's funny. There's a really unchanged dwarf character that does the same. The fireball thing. I think Richie Amphlets, Now We After Dark guy, calls it, and Mountain Miniatures guy calls it Dirty Harry or something, with the 2 shots exploding into 4d3 hits if you hit with both of them. it's just a really good and obviously good combination of magic runes
Yeah.
on this gun that just
Yeah.
you see him in every dwarf army almost, but I don't
Yeah.
resent it because he's not game breaking. It's just like, yeah, that's a good and obviously good list, like list inclusion,
Yeah.
and I can deal with it.
I think so I think but we're getting to that point where it's like things are becoming, I don't think it's 100% that case, but I think we are getting to the point where there are more and more of these solved puzzles within the game.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's interesting, as someone who plays a lot of 40k and people complain about 40k, that it changes too much. I think one of the things they don't appreciate is that if you don't change things up, the game becomes too solved, and then actually even if if every dwarf player starts running the same list near as damn it, if every Tomb King player starts running the same list near as damn it, that starts becoming boring in itself. And I think a great it's going outside of tabletop games for a moment. So but I think enough people will get this one. One of the video games that I like to play is Helldivers 2. And Helldivers, I know I've lost you immediately, but some people will get this. In Helldivers 2 was out for about a year, and the player numbers were slowly going down, to the point where it had like 30 to 40,000 people playing it, because the game was basically solved. Everyone knew if you play against the bugs, then you brought this kind of stuff. If you play against the bots, you brought this kind of stuff. And then they brought in a third enemy for you to face, which were the squids. And the player numbers went from an average of 20 to 30,000, 40,000 occasionally, to over 200,000, 300,000 people just came back to the game. And the numbers have started going down again a little bit, but they came back to the game. Because why did people come back? Because the game wasn't solved. No one knew how to beat this new enemy. And so the most exciting part was, holy crap, just random bullshit, go! Let's see what works. And and so
bullshit.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting, bringing it back to tabletop for a moment. People complain in 40k that the game changes too much. I think people in Old World are starting to ask for the game to change. And they're like, we could do with, we're not necessarily saying version 2, Old World 2nd edition, but we wouldn't be against a 1.5 build.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be against, like, let's make, even people who own these things are like, I wouldn't be against if you nerf my dragon, GW. It's been very powerful for 18 months now. I'm kind of bored of using my dragon now. I've had the same toys for 18 months. GW, give me an excuse to go and pick up a couple of boxes of Chaos Warriors. I don't mind. I want to give you my money. Don't worry, I want to give it to you. So it's interesting that they haven't changed the game almost at all, apart from a few literal FAQs they've answered questions. And the game started to become solved, and now people are beginning to clamour for change. So I think there's a few bits there. Arms race, honeymoon period, change, go.
I have arms race, yeah, and definitely in the competitive pointy end element of the play, and those guys are going to exist in any. If you can make it competitive at all, it's going to be people trying to compete, which is fine.
You can't blame people for that. People should always.
No, absolutely not.
Some people like to lambast people, but I think you can't blame someone for wanting to try well, and everyone wins games in their own way. Some win vibes, some win games.
I am at least a little bit of both camps here.
Yeah.
So the bit that I most identify as a vibey fun, like, oh, I'm a Skaven player, look at all my slate, I blow up all my own stuff, what a shame. But I am making an active attempt to try and become a better player, because this is the only game I play. I don't play 40k, I don't play Age of Sigmar, I don't play any other tabletop game.
Not yet.
I barely play video games.
I'm gonna get you.
You're gonna get me.
I'm gonna get. We'll come back to this at the end. Like final 30 seconds. I'm gonna get you.
So I want to be at least decent at it. I don't want to just be. I used to just push models around. Purely vibes-based, very little understanding of tactics. I'm now trying to make an active attempt at measuring things out and making smart choices, and being a better player. I'm putting more thought into the list that I write. However, the part of that which the people at the very top end do happily and that I don't enjoy doing is taking the stuff that's so obviously so much better than other stuff. So I played one game with Double Dragon on request. My frequent opponent requested me to play it into a list that he wanted to take to an event. So I took it. I didn't feel like I outplayed him
because
I didn't.
James, the dwarf player.
James, yes.
Shout out James, dwarf player.
I 100% did not outplay James that day. I pushed forwards 2 dragons, and they just ate his army because they are. He did all the right choices. He stopped the first turn Arcane Urgency to stop me getting into his rear for a turn 2 charge. So I only got into a charge on turn 3, but it was enough to take so much of his army out that there was no way he could bring back the win. No, not a hope in hell. And that isn't the kind of win that I want to get. I want to get a win where it was close fought and through a moment of like tactical insight, I managed to snag the win. Those are the really fun games where you both walk away going, "Oh, that was brilliant. If I had just done this."
Yeah.
You brought the winning list. Well played. You won at the list building stage. That doesn't interest me so much. And I know that if everybody's bringing that list, then it's a level playing field, right? I don't know resentment towards the people who play like that. That's completely fine. And anything amongst consenting adults, and I'm trying to get better and trying to get good enough.
Does that apply to Father Grigori?
Father Grigori's adults might not be so consenting. Let's throw in there.
If anything's gonna get me kicked off YouTube, it's gonna be Father Grigori. Oh my god! Sorry, I interrupted you.
I'm trying to take about equal part in both camps of like fun and fluffy silliness, and actually trying to put something together well to win. And I'm enjoying both. There's more people in the pointy end sort of camp, at least online, right? But that's where competitive conversations live.
You want to win, but you want to win on your terms.
Yeah,
that's the biggie.
I think the solved state of the game has happened, I feel, quite quickly, because the way that the balances between elements of the game. So if you think about it in pure building blocks, so you've got your infantry bricks, you've got cavalry aspects, you've got monsters and magic. Magic and monsters are really good, but there's the number of different magic things you can have going on. In a book you might have a level 3 to 4 and a level 1 to 2 mage, and then you'll have, if you're in a dragon book, you have a dragon, maybe you have another monster that's not going to be at a dragon's level because it doesn't have a rider, but it's pretty decent. Well, that's not many moving parts to solve. The obvious day one thing is, okay, it's going to be one of these, and then you go, it's not that one, it's this one.
Yeah,
and that's quite a quick process. If infantry was on the cutting edge of the competitive aspect, not by a long way, but if it was at least up there, then you've got a lot more decisions to make between which infantry units for which situations. You've got infantry that deals with different things, like high elves have a really good aspect. They've got Phoenix Guard that are really tanky. They've got Swords Masters with
yeah, I love Sword Masters.
Brilliant high dodge. Yeah, they've got relatively cheap spearmen. They've got the Swiss Army knife Sea Guard guys. They've got a load of different choices, and which one's best might be a lot more varied depending on the matchup and other things going on in the meta. Whereas it's like, what's your biggest dragon? What's your second biggest dragon? Can you fit them both in? Cool.
Yeah.
It's not just that. That's very facetious. That's very sort of.
Well, no, because the dragon solves like it. I think it's a really, really good point. High elves have got all these different infantry, and each one of these infantry is better into a different target. So the thing is, if you don't face into the thing that they're good into, then that infantry becomes instantly less efficient. Or you take a dragon, which is good into everything.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you take the dragon? Yeah, and it's difficult to ask. I mean, the reason you don't is because you want to have friends, but
there are things that counter dragons, but there are also things that I'm not particularly interested in running, like 120 skeletons with a banner that makes the shots poisonous. Not particularly interested in running that either.
I'm not even sure that counters all dragons, because you can make them ethereal. You can't poison them if they're ethereal.
True, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I think it's not. We've had 18 months of monsters being probably a bit too good in I mean, didn't matter how many Orc boys I threw at that Chaos Spawn, it was just, it was just going and going and going. That was amazing. I love the imagery of that, of like, one group of boys would go like, like charging in and just like, we're all going to die, like run up. And the next group of boys, which were the big ones, like, oh, those soft gits will get it done. And they had the boss, and they went in, and the boss just got eaten. Like, he was like, it's like,
yeah, it's wild because if you compare that guy to a dragon,
yeah,
he's nowhere near. His their thing, the thing that makes them really good, and why you were talking about beastmen before and how they don't get to play how you imagine a beastman.
Yeah,
I think if you're playing beastmen and you want to do well, it's really hard to argue yourself out of taking 9 dragon ogres and 2 great giant chaos spawn.
Yeah,
because they're both options that have really good stats and don't pay nearly enough points for what they do.
Yeah, that's kind of beastman is more like Codex Dragon Ogre, isn't it? Yeah.
The giant chaos spawn of Nurgle is 170 points, 5 up armor, 5 up regen, T6, strength 6, leadership 10, random mover, so you don't have to declare charge and stuff. It's just got all these rules.
Yeah.
And it does so. It's almost got a rule per point. You know, it's ridiculous. It's so undercosted. And it's really noticeable to me because it acts in a very similar way to the Hellpit Abomination.
Yeah, but the Hellpit's a lot more.
It's a tragic state.
Yeah.
It's in a really tragic state, and that's 40 points more.
I think what's interesting is we've spoken about how the Great Spawn would just eats all the Orc boys, and I actually think Orcs, I think, would generally struggle into the Hellpit. But I thought that I went not into the Hellpit, into the Greater Spawn. That I said earlier, like, oh, just cannon it to death. But Orcs don't have cannons, so there are options, but not every army has all the options. I guess I could drop rocks onto its head, but rocks are nowhere near as reliable.
Goblin Doom Divers, right?
Yeah, but they're nowhere near as reliable. They're nowhere near as honestly, man. As someone who uses my cannons are like, I know to measure 10 inches from the back. And I know I've got an engineer. The only thing between me and getting to that thing is, did I roll a 1 to wound? And then it's up to you if you pass a regen or not, essentially. Doom Divers, it could just fling off to one side, fling off. They're good, but they're not as reliable as a cannon. And I think a brace of cannons stops a Great Spawn from getting to me statistically, fairly reasonably. I think a brace of Doom Divers. Yeah, a brace of Doom Divers, I'm not sure it does.
If you're this fictional beastman player, you've got 2 Vile Tide casters, you've got 9 Dragon Ogres and 2 Nurgle Chaos Spawn, and like, I've got loads of stats. Can you deal with it?
Yeah, yeah. I think big monsters, like, I'm speaking directly to JTY and SDS now.
Listen here, you.
Listen here. We all know that big monsters were shite in 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy, and that cannons made them all fall over, and nobody liked that. Big monsters, they've had their 18 months now. We've all enjoyed using them. And those of us who don't use them, we've all accepted getting bummed by them for 18 months. But now, even the people who own the things and have spent hard money are asking you, can you please rein them in, and can we please have a push and pull game of infantry? We don't mind if it's a bit of a grind. We don't mind if we need to build and paint loads of them. Speed paints make it a piece of piss, and unit fillers mean we don't have to spend as much in that way. So, just make the infantry good. That's the meta for the next 18 months. All right. Love you, JTY. Do you?
I think it served a really good, but you touched on it there with speed painting up blocks of infantry and stuff. It is still faster and easier to paint up your 1 centerpiece dragon to take up a massive chunk of your points. So it served a purpose in that aspect.
Yeah.
Now, Chaos Dragons not being something you can buy off them is another kettle of fish, another silly decision.
Yeah.
But people have their dragon now, because why wouldn't they?
They've had their fun with it.
And they've had their fun with it, and they probably haven't actually learned a whole lot about the game, because there's not much interaction with the parts of the rules that you don't want to have to interact with when you're pushing your 1 super powerful thing around. Or or you're using your skirmishing Pegasus Knights to ignore all the movement rules and just go where you want to go and kill what you want to kill.
Yeah.
Force people to play with infantry and learn how to be better players. That's a different type of game at that point.
I agree, and I think it would look... Old world games are beginning to look a little less immersive. We're just like, a few monsters flying around. Nothing looks better. No tabletop game looks better, in my opinion, than a fully painted old world army against another fully painted old army, and there's cavalry flying, doing their thing on the flanks, but there's 2 or 3 blocks of infantry marching at each other down the center.
Yeah,
that is old world. That's where we need to get to. We don't need to, like, 2 or 3 blocks, 20, 30, 20 to 40 infantry, depending on the faction. Get that sorted, and I think old world is just perfection.
You know you're running a proper Warhammer fantasy, Warhammer the Old World army, when you can picture it in one of the old white dwarfs as a picture.
Exactly.
One of those photo moments.
Yeah. Exactly. 100%. All right.
It doesn't always have to be the infantry blocks. So you could think about a Tomb King chariot army with all those light chariots. They're not broken. People aren't playing them. But that is still very much a Warhammer army, because that is so on theme.
Yeah, 100%.
Cetra the Imperishable and his 100 chariots rolling down the dune at you. Yeah, love it.
Cetra does not serve. Cetra does not kneel. There we go. So I think that's a really good point to end the old world part of this video. Now it's time for the...
cheers for having me on. See you, bye. You can't get me.
30 seconds. 30 seconds. No. And I'm going to make everyone watching this video roll their eyes collectively now, because it's like someone talking about their new girlfriend. But I'm shoehorning it into every conversation. 30 seconds. Sam,
the 30k waifu.
You are square based, but are you ready to become heresy pilled?
I have frequently been saying that if the bases aren't square, I just don't care. But the first Warhammer game I ever played was Warhammer 40k in 3rd edition, and I remember the game. And I didn't know the rules at the time, but I remember the rules when I learnt the rules.
Yeah.
And I have such a strong nostalgia for it. I'm a million miles away from getting into the game properly myself, because I've got a lot of things to focus on for the old world that I want to do. So there's still loads of armies I want to play. I want to own.
Of course.
But I have the desire for old style blast templates and armor facings on
so
vehicles.
Good.
Yeah, just all those layered special rules. I don't care if it's balanced. I just want to. I was a guard player when I played 40k.
There we go.
But I think if I was to do 30k, there are some Space Marine legions that I am interested in. There are some cool Space Marines out there. Might be in the minority, but there are some cool Space Marines out there.
Well, I tell you what, mate. I tell you what. At some point, when I've got a little bit more familiar with the rules myself, we will do a intro heresy game.
Hey.
You can get on the guard, the militia, and I'll run some sort of fluffy thing against you. Maybe it'll be my own militia. Maybe we'll get like some death guard or something. You can be loyalist, I'll be traitor, and you can find the heresy mind virus will trigger the member berries and the nostalgia centers in your brain, and
it's
we will and you will be square based and heresy pilled, baby.
I knew it existed. You know, it's not a surprise to me that 30k is a thing, and I was vaguely aware that it was still in the old style of 40k, but just seeing it played, just hearing the rules and watching things, like, yeah, that's
it's very good. 3rd edition is apparently around the corner as well, so that should be a good thing. More interest, we'll be able to get more. But it's always good when you know a game and there's people to play it with, so that's a big part. But we won't. No more than 2 or 3 minutes is allowed on heresy. I've been told by the community I've got to stop wanking it off. So there we go.
It's a rehab. I'm
spreading the heresy mind virus. I'm spreading it. You'll joy. What of us? Activate your
sleeper cell's been
activated. Yeah, activate the sleeper cell. The silverfish jumps at night. All right.
Yeah.
Sam, it has been a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much.
A pleasure to be on, mate.
I think we've covered a range and breadth of topics there, and I think we've also expressed some hopes and desires for the future as well, which is awesome. But dear viewers, all of this is just like our opinions, man. Let us know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What are your thoughts on Old World right now? What is your local scene like, if you have a local scene? Is it getting a bit pointier at the competitive end, or is it still all vibes all the way, or maybe something in between? And what is your current Old World hobby project? Are you still working on that same army from the beginning of the game, or like Sam, have you got yourself a second army? And like me, I've gone from my empire to my orcs and goblins. You know, where are you on your Old World hobby journey? But I think that's everything. Thank you for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to go ahead and smash the like button, subscribe, all that good stuff. And as always, we'll see you guys next time. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian glory hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing, truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full-time without the incredible and generous support of my members, so thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Alex Dengal, Bonbon Vert, Lord Pryor, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, Try Again Bragg, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, and August Barney. Seriously guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video, and of course, as always, see you guys next time.